Confronting Charles in Edinburgh. Thank you everyone who's come down at this very late notice, trying desperately to make your way through the road closures to get round here. It's great to have so many of you here in support, flying our banners. Without further ado, I'm going to be inviting up Patrick Harvey, MSP.
It's the usual problem for me speaking after a tall person. There we go. Thanks very much, Tristan, and thanks for the invitation to come and speak. Like others, I just had to do an absurdly long bicycle detour to get from St Andrew's House just up the hill, which would be about 5 minutes walk normally. For some reason, some of the roads are closed. For some reason, there's a lot of people telling us we're not allowed to walk about freely on the roads. I'm not entirely sure whose idea that was. It's certainly not one that makes the operation of a democratic parliament. Even though we're in recess, MSPs are supposed to be in here, able to get in and about and go to meetings and speak to constituents. It doesn't help the operation of our democratic parliament to have all of this rigmarole. And we're paying a pretty penny or two for all of this rigmarole. What we've seen over the last few months is a genuinely extraordinary attempt to lavish your money, our money, on some of the wealthiest people, not just in this country, but some of the wealthiest people in the world, so that they can do some sort of overpriced Game of Thrones cosplay exercise. It's quite extraordinary. And does that feel like the kind of modern democratic Scotland that the people who campaigned to create a Scottish Parliament, whether they believe in independence or not, people who campaigned across party lines to create a Scottish Parliament wanted a sense of this as a modern democratic society, and that's what we should continue to strive to build. In my view, the passing of power and influence and a huge amount of unearned wealth from generation to generation without even paying inheritance tax, that is fundamentally at odds with that modern democratic society we're seeking to build here. Now, I know there'll be people here on the other side of the road or lining up the Royal Mile who are looking forward to seeing a procession. They feel strongly about their beliefs as we feel strongly about ours. We should have respect for one another in that disagreement. And I wish them a happy day. I'm pleased the sun is occasionally shining on them. I wish them a happy day. But the thing that I would like them to reflect on, the thing that I would like people who've come here to wave their Union flags and cheer the King, the thing I would like them to reflect on is what we are missing out on by having a monarchy instead of the chance to choose our own head of state. The opportunity that's missed. The best speech I've ever heard in that building was not from an MSP or from a minister. It wasn't even from a First Minister. It was from the President of Ireland. Now, he was invited as a guest speaker, Michael D. Higgins, and he had clearly thought long and hard about the historic relationship between Scotland and Ireland, our place in the wider European community, the family of nations that is the European Union. He thought long and hard about the challenges of the 21st century that we face together, from economic disempowerment through privatisation and inequality, through the climate emergency and the need to struggle together for our very survival, through issues of migration, and goodness knows Scotland and Ireland's history have a strong element of the way that people migrate for reasons good and bad, and it should give us empathy for those who are being forced very often to migrate around the world, perhaps against their will, perhaps out of desperation or for their very survival. The notion of bringing the empathy of our history to that modern story of migration. He gave this speech, it was about 40 odd minutes, and he delivered it, I think it was just days after the cataclysmic and traumatic Brexit vote, and he clearly thought already, how am I going to rewrite this speech to reflect these turbulent times that we're now living in? It was the best speech I've heard in there. And then about a week later, Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth came to do the formal opening of Parliament, and it was 5 minutes of, hello, I'm the Queen, this is Scotland, you're the Parliament, very nice, goodbye. And there was nothing. There was just no substance. Now, I don't think we need to have a head of state, a president who's a politician. I think you can, like Ireland, have someone who's a poet, someone who captures something of the story of our country, someone who embodies what it is we seek to be, what constitutes us. That's what I would like to see from a head of state. I would like the people of Scotland to be able to choose the voice that represents them, and that represents not just our past with pomp and privilege and patronage and ermine robes, but someone who embodies a positive, optimistic, democratic vision of our future, of the kind of Scotland that I believe we can and should be if we want to hand on the best possible country to the next generation. So thank you for being here. Thank you for making sure that those who seek to celebrate the monarchy are not the only voices being heard today, and they will not be the only voices that shape the future of our country. Thank you very much.
We're here, aren't we? Because we support a republic. Charles Windsor, Saxe Coburg Gotha, whatever his name is, Charles Philip Arthur George, blah blah blah. He is not our king. He's not a legitimate sovereign, and we are here to protest because we are citizens, not subjects. Now, about the kind of royal family's involvement in the evils of capitalism, so I don't have to tell you guys, but it needs to be said out there in public. The royal family was complicit in the biggest crime against humanity of all time. A crime that went on for 350 years, and for which 250 of those 350 years, Britain and the union of Scotland and England was at the centre of it. And the royal family had two companies in which they were involved. One was called the Royal African Company of England. Literally, they tattooed those letters, RACE, on their property. That is branded enslaved African people who were responsible for creating the wealth that you see in palaces like this. Now, I want reparative justice for that, and for that to happen, for Scotland, indeed it has to become an independent country, I would say that, but for those who don't agree with that, it's still necessary for Britain as a country to own up to its imperial past, not to glorify Empire 2.0. The empire is finished, or rather it should be finished, because we haven't quite finished it yet. Babylon has to fall, and it has to fall at our hands, right here on our own island here. We have to make the British Empire end, because the British state, the Westminster state, the Whitehall Club, the oligarchs of capital that influence them, the House of Lords, that is a structure that comes from feudal times, from the slavery days. These are literally the holders of inherited slave wealth. That's who Charles is. That's what he's about. That's how he owns all the stuff he does. That's public property. That's public property. That's what it should be. And for that to happen, we have to make a democratic revolution that gets rid of Westminster's cold, dead hands and gives us a democracy and freedom as citizens. Now, I recognise, of course, that we're not all supporters of independence, and if I could get the end of a reactionary monarchy and a republic with citizenship, I would take that at least as a first step. I would. But the first line, as our leader Hamza said at his Dundee conference speech, of a constitution for the people of Scotland. We don't have a constitution in Britain. What we have is conventions. Conventions based on reactionary institutions that deny the rights of citizens to properly hold the government to account. The government has Henry VIII powers that can override our powers of our government and our parliament right here. These powers are being usurped. They said take back control. And they certainly took back control, didn't they? But they took back control away from us, who voted against Brexit, who voted against their power grab. We were the ones who said, no, Scotland stands as a European country. We were internationalists, not reactionary British nationalists. That's what we are. And we're going to show that our society, our country, will be a better place because we are a citizenship of a republic where the people are sovereign. And for that to happen, we need to make some radical change, brothers and sisters. So let's do that.